94% of all people suffer from writer's block. And if you're like me, you've probably sat down to write and nothing's happened. And it is so frustrating. Well, don't worry, I'm about to show you 4 simple ways that will help you get writing today. Before we get started though, it's helpful to know what type of writer's block you have to know which one of these will be more useful to you. Is it that you have no idea about what you want to write about? You might even have a general theme or topic in your mind, but if we don't have specifics, it can begin to feel almost impossible to write a single sentence. Or is it procrastination, where you have to write but you just don't want to? That's really common when we have projects that have a deadline. For example, assessments at university. Or the third type, which is the one that I suffer from the most, which is where we're stuck. I can know exactly what I want to write, but I just can't seem to write it. The first step I take to overcome this is to stop writing and start collecting. Because I realized when we're trying to write sentences or entire paragraphs, when we can't even get a word down onto a page, is the same as an artist trying to paint a portrait of somebody that's not sitting there in front of them. It's much easier if we can see what we're trying to create in front of us. I would go and find other published works on the same topic that I was trying to write. I would then read through their work and look for sentences that I really liked, that were what I wanted in my own work. And I would copy and paste them into a Word document. I would do this for at least 5 published works. Then I would come back to my Word document and look at each one and write down what it was that I liked about it. Was it how they started their sentence? Was it how they ended their sentence? Was it a specific word that they used? Or was it how short their sentence was? I identified step by step what that framework was. I then came back to my own writing and wrote one sentence using that framework to get one main idea down. Obviously, I didn't copy. That would be plagiarism. I'm talking about taking their framework and not their exact words. It's okay if you find one word that is exactly what you've been trying to think of for days, but you just couldn't come up with it. No writer has a monopoly on one word. You can use it. Then what you want to do is add to that main idea that you've written down with a bit of detail. I find it most helpful to do this in bullet point form, and later, once I've started writing, I can come back through and expand those into proper sentences. Sometimes though, I disconnect from my project entirely. And I do this by writing about something unrelated. The key here though is that I disconnect and then reconnect with my writing repeatedly, one after the other. The best way I've found to do this is by setting a timer for 5 minutes and then sitting down and writing about what I did that day or what I did yesterday. When the timer goes off, I stop writing that and I go back to my main project. I reconnect. And I set myself a timer for 15 minutes and I try and write. When that timer goes off, if I'm finding that I'm writing, then I just keep going and I ignore the timer. But if I'm struggling to write, I stop and I come back to that unrelated writing and I set another 5-minute timer. And I go back to writing about my day. When that next timer goes off, I stop and I reconnect with my main project again, but this time I set a timer for 30 minutes and I try and write. Again, when that timer goes off, if I'm writing okay, then I keep going and I ignore that timer completely. But if I'm still struggling, then I stop completely. I take a 15-minute break and then I restart that process from the beginning. That's the best way I've found to make writing something unrelated help me in writing my main project and overcome writer's block. It's less about what I'm writing about and just the fact that I'm writing. The third way I beat writer's block is by recording instead of writing. I've often found that I'm able to verbalize a concept far better than I can write it when I'm suffering from writer's block. There are 2 ways I do this. The first is by recording an audio file and I just talk about what I'm trying to write about. I then have that audio file that I can listen to and then transcribe it later. I can write it down. Another way is to simply use a talk-to-text app on your phone or on your computer to transcribe it for you. This method of recording and transcribing is so successful that many authors use it to write entire books. For example, Ultramarathon Man by Dean Karnazes. He literally spoke his entire book. And because it's so conversational, it makes it so easy to read as well, which is also what we want. But I found it really important to always have a recording of the audio file as well. Transcription apps aren't perfect. By having an audio file I can go back and listen to, I can see what it was I was trying to say. The fourth tool that you can use is to explain your ideas rather than trying to write about them. To do this, I explain what I'm trying to write to somebody else, and I ask them if they could help me by asking me questions about it. I have found this helped more times than I can count. When I've been struggling to explain something and struggling to write something, the moment I've said it to somebody else and they've asked me a question about it or made me clarify a point, it's like a light bulb moment for me. So by explaining it to somebody, and as simply as we can, it can help us find the words to explain our concept in language that they understand, which is what we need for our writing. And what I've often found is sometimes when I'm explaining it to somebody or they're asking me questions and we're having a conversation about it, I will say something that I think is amazing and I wish I could remember it to write it down. So my tip for you here is, much like recording and transcribing, set your phone to record yourself when you're explaining it to a friend or a family member so that you've captured that work and you're not having to start again from scratch. Believe me, I've tried other people's tips to overcome writer's block, but none of those things worked for me. I figured out these 4 ways while struggling through writer's block myself. I found reading and collecting works best when I'm feeling stuck, and disconnecting and writing about something unrelated works best when I'm stuck or when I'm procrastinating. Whereas I found recording and transcribing or explaining it to somebody else works for all 3 types of writer's block. And if you want to avoid writer's block in the future, remember the #1 rule of writing: no editing. Never edit when you're writing. Leave that for later, after you've got a complete draft. So let me know in the comments what type of writer's block you suffer from the most. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And now that you're writing, how do you make sure that your writing is what you want, that it's actually worth reading? Well, there are 4 simple writing rules that anyone can use, no matter what the writing style is. And you can learn them in just 5 minutes and 51 seconds by watching this video here next.